Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
All right, with trepidation.
Yes,
we
where were we?
That's a good band name, Trepidation.
Trepidation. Yeah.
Or an album name, maybe. Maybe a better album name. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Nonplussed.
That's another one.
Nonplussed.
Nonplussed, the podcast.
Nonplussed, the podcast. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, where were we? Lesley, you want to introduce yourself, or do you want us to introduce you? I guess I kind of did.
Yeah, you do it. I introduce myself. Hello, my name's Lesley Rankine. I'm an alcoholic.
Aside from being an alcoholic,
yeah,
I really love your shit, love your music. Always have.
Thank you very much.
I think I posted this week on social media. I must have bought, I think, three copies probably of Saltpeter after destroying them accidentally here and there. Or
all right, okay. Oh well, thanks very much. That's another 12.5 cents to my massive
there you go.
my massive estate.
Yeah, glad we could help.
Thanks very much.
That's what we try to do. Probably better. Well, I don't know. Is it better than streaming record sales?
I don't know. I mean, I've no idea. I don't pay attention to any of this kind of stuff. So I think as far as artists are concerned, it's probably just all shit.
Right.
And probably not even worth your while looking at the bits of paper that come through the door and tell you that you've made 0.01 cent on a play in Brazil somewhere. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's not worth your time to open the envelope.
Hardly worth the postage.
Nah. No, and certainly not worth the paper.
Yeah. So where are you living? You're in, are you in Dumfries? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just outside, about 5 miles outside Dumfries, in among fields. And at the moment, I've got almost nice waterfront property because we have had torrential rain, and this area floods quite well. So, I've got a nice lake out the front now. You know, the house is high enough up.
How's the fishing?
I think the fishing around here is pretty good. I've never managed to catch anything, but I have been fishing a couple of times around here, and it's probably the most relaxed I've ever been in my life. Because I don't really do the relax mode much. I'm pretty much on or off, but I really enjoyed that. But as I say, I never caught anything, so I'm probably quite glad of that. But it's very nice. But I think there's quite a lot of good salmon fishing around here.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I get lots of people, guys in waders and, you know, looking all a bit kind of country, standing out in the middle of rivers at certain times of the year and fishing. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I always wondered about, fishing in the UK. It's different. I had one of the worst fishing experiences of my life in Ireland, or off the coast of, where was I? By Killarney. About 12-foot swells, I think, and about a 8-foot boat, what it seemed like.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear. That's no good.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, in America, in the Midwest or whatever, rode a boat my whole life, but I was there on my honeymoon, and you're like, the captain was like, you got to worry about seasickness or anything? I was like, nah, I don't think so.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah, different story out there. Yeah, it was awful.
And they're all used to it. They're people who go on boats all the time are kind of used to it, and they have their sea legs and stuff, and they don't have the sickness and stuff. So
yeah, I had river legs.
I would. I think I'd throw up at that. I don't like going on boats. I don't like crossing the channel here, or I went to get my visa this time. I had to go over to Belfast and on the ferry, and even that, a bit in rough weather, is just a bit too scary.
Oh yeah, I don't care for
these guys around here, people just stand in the middle of the rivers.
Yeah,
because they never get that deep and fish. So I actually had a friend of mine, caught a salmon once, and he brought it in to show me, and he laid it out on one of the countertops in my kitchen, and it was about 1 meter long. It stretched about like 3 feet, 3.5 feet or something.
Yeah,
so it was quite nice. Yeah,
Huh?
So I didn't know they came that big.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about fish. I thought they came in little slices with marinades on them and
Right.
A lemon slice.
a lemon slice and herby butter on them.
Right.
But seemingly they've got fins and shit. Nice.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Who knew?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They survive feasting on potatoes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I bet.
Dill.
I quite fancy a bit of salmon now. I've been doing this veganuary thing, trying to stick to a vegan diet this month, which is quite good. I'm quite enjoying it. I'm farting shitloads, you know.
Yeah.
Just constant farting, and I quite fancy a bit of salmon now that we're talking about it.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I'll go and have a slice of lettuce later.
Some people are doing the carnivore, the strictly carnivore diet here. I guess that's what's going on this month. It's like the carnivore diet month or something, like strictly meat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. People are also talking about all sorts of bowel problems.
Yeah, and I bet they must really stink.
Yeah.
You think, people talk about meat sweats and stuff. I think if you're just having meat, your farts must be absolutely rank.
Yeah.
I would think.
It's got to be awful.
But,
can't imagine.
Yeah, I know.
God, everybody's like, I feel great except for like the chronic diarrhea or.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it. I don't really believe in that. I don't think it's very good for your body either.
No, I don't think so.
And it's certainly not very good for the planet.
No. Yeah. And I think we've got, there's all sorts of things we have to work out with that too. There's things to deal with, even with agriculture and farming too. It's a big part of that. Looking at where your food's sourced from, I think is important because, massive agriculture kills a bunch of animals too, or just, plants. I mean, just you look at the fields here in America, in the central part of the U.S. I mean, how many, granted, a lot of that's field mice.
I know.
Things like that, but still animals,
I know. I think I remember driving through what the bus driver called Cowschwitz when we were going up the West Coast, and it was fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
And we're looking at either side of the freeway was just cows as far as you could see, standing there in the baking sun, not a blade of grass in sight, and the stink was just overpowering, and it was just to think that people are eating what those cows are producing,
Yeah.
I think that's fucking awful, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of little belts like that throughout the U.S.
Sure.
Is there? Right. See, I know, I think I started hearing people talking about eating grass-fed beef, and I didn't know what they meant because I didn't understand that cows are fed on other things than grass, because around here this is farming country where I live, and it's just all grass,
right?
Because it rains all the time, because we've got shit weather, but it's covered in grass, so that's pretty much the only thing that the cows eat. And I suppose before that I didn't understand that in other parts of the world where there's not grass for the cows to eat, they feed them on some other shit. I have no idea what they would feed them on.
Yeah, grain.
Mostly grain.
Is it?
Yeah, big piles of grain and corn. Sometimes other cows. That's where you get mad cow disease from.
Disease. I know. Well, that's what they were doing in Britain. Weren't they? They were feeding cows on pellets made from old bits of sheep that had scrapie, and it ended up being CJD in cows or CJD in people in it.
Yeah, I was there during that.
Awful.
Yeah, during that when that crisis broke out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think around the same time. It's like 1995, somewhere around there.
Right.
Yeah.
I think something of a little. No, I remember that. It was really horrible, and I mean, it just shows you what the farming industry, the industry side of it, how it distorts people's relationship with their food. And it was perfectly natural for us to eat meat. It is not perfectly natural for us to force animals to eat
other animals,
other diseased animals that they would never eat naturally,
Yeah.
So I have no problem. I mean, I have no problem eating meat, but it's got to be farmed in a very small capacity. And I think now I would probably only ever eat organic meat that I knew how it was farmed.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're going to pay out the nose for it, and you can never really.
Exactly.
You can't really follow
think,
where it's coming from exactly. You know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, round here, when you go to a butcher, they have to have it written on the wall where the beef that they have, where it comes from, the farm that it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So you know, I have to have it written by law so that everybody knows the exact farm where the beef came from and the other meat came from. So I don't know if it's like that in the States.
Oh God, no! It couldn't be that way.
Is it?
Can you imagine that at McDonald's?
All right, oh fuck yeah! I suppose I don't have that at McDonald's, but over here they say that the meat in McDonald's comes from British and Irish farmers. But
really?
You think, well, is it the really bad ones? You know what I mean? We save the really bad farmers for the McDonald's meat, but no. Oh fuck that!
Yeah.
You can tell a difference in quality though between the ones for like the local farmers. And I grew up in a family where my grandfather and my uncle and now my cousins are all they sell cattle. That's what they do is they raise Angus. So we grew up kind of spoiled. We had the good stuff all the time.
A proper, and it's a completely different product. I hate calling it product because it's an animal, it's a living being and stuff. But and they're saying that with chickens, the cheap chickens have far fewer nutrients and minerals and shit in them, and much more toxic. And it's just a completely different animal that you're eating. I think.
Oh yeah.
And a really easy example is that you ever try organic milk as opposed to just regular milk?
Yeah.
They taste vastly different.
Yeah. Aye, totally. And just the meat does. I mean, the beef compared to just your bog standard shit beef is a completely different thing. But there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember that. It's like 1995. It was around the time of my honeymoon when we first went there. We started hearing about that. Had cow disease. Terrified to know.
Yeah,
I know, and I think still in America you can't buy British beef, can you? Or you certainly can't buy. I remember trying to buy when I lived in the States, trying to get haggis for a Burns night supper, and they were like, "Nah, you can't get it. Yeah, not having it." And I think, oh well.
Yeah, just about.
I don't know.
Just about everything we get is packaged, I think, from the UK. If you found haggis here, or if you found something like that, it'd have to be like locally sourced and made by somebody who...
I think it was made by somebody. Yes, eventually I found somebody who had a haggis, but it was made in Seattle, of all places.
Right.
And you could only buy like a 40-pound, like half a sheet made in, like a massive source. It was... I suppose they made it just for people who were having big parties or Burns night suppers or something like that. and it was when we were recording Short Staffed, I think, or Saltpeter maybe, and I had everybody around to my house with this massive fucking haggis in the middle of the table, and it was also so shit. Because usually haggis should be really light and fluffy and spicy and stuff, and it was like some kind of hideous meat paste shit on the middle of the table. So I think that most of it went in the bin.
Yeah.
This is for all the Scottish people in Seattle to share.
Yeah.
Bring some fucking salt.
Yeah, I know. Never mind.
Nice try.
Well, it's like you're craving eggs, so you got to buy the chicken too.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Oh, so I saw online, speaking of issues with the UK. I was like, yeah, I'm going to see if...
Nice segue.
I was like, I want to see if I can get her on a tear about Brexit.
How many issues with the UK?
So you just went to there was an independence march for independence here.
I know, but I missed it. I got
you
there
missed
too
it.
late. First of all, I woke up yesterday morning and I had my teenage son with me who had luckily been woken up because trying to get him out of bed is like trying to fucking start a fire in an ice factory, right? So usually I have to yell at him for about an hour to get him out of bed. But luckily he was awake because there was a massive leak in the roof that had been dripping on his face for about an hour. So that had woken him up. But then I had to deal with this fucking great leak in the roof at my mum's house, and my mum's quite old and she's not very well just now and stuff. So I had all that shit to deal with, and then trying to drive over the moors to get onto the motorway to get up to Glasgow. And it usually takes me about 2 hours, but it took me about 3.5 hours to get up to Glasgow.
Oh God!
So by the time I got there, it was finished. The march had gone great, and I think there had been about 80,000 people there, but they were going to have a rally afterwards, which they cancelled because the place was just sodden and everybody was sodden. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I missed it, but it looked great.
Yeah, I saw you shared a video. It looks like a good time.
Yeah. I spent the night when I got back home last night. I was looking at all the videos online, and I was like, oh, I missed it. Oh, what a shame, because they're always such really positive, fun, happy affairs. Everybody has a really good time on them. So, yes, you wanted to ask me some questions, though, didn't you, about it?
Well, it'd be so extensive. I mean, I guess I'll just let you lead, like, where you want to talk about it, because for Americans, this is, it's like I've literally been Googling, like, Brexit for dummies. I mean, we understand a little bit about, like, the EU and, and we were there for, like, I remember the formation of the Euro was around that same time. I went to Ireland with the mad cow disease and everything else. So,
Isn't that about the same time that, like, you were kind of hitting the scene too, just kind of tying all those things together? Because I feel like it was like 95, 96-ish when I first was hearing like paraffin for the first time.
Well, the saltpeter came out in 95, so that's when all that kind of thing happened. And what do you want to know about Brexit?
I'm getting off topic. What do you want to
know about Scottish independence?
Right.
The thing is, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay in Europe because we like being part of Europe, and we've always had close ties to a lot of the countries in Europe, and also we're just like that. But we're getting dragged out of it because England voted to stay. And now, what you need to understand about the UK is England has something like 10 times the population of any of the other countries. There are 4 countries altogether in the UK. There's Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. And England has 10 times the population of any of the other countries.
Right.
So, and we're treated as if we're, for voting purposes, as if we're one nation. So we don't vote per country, we vote per person. So England has 10 times the vote of any other countries. So in any kind of vote like this, for any government, for fucking anything, England chooses, so it's England chooses the government for Britain every single time.
So do you have any sort of safeguards set up against that? Right now we've got a safeguard that's bit us in the ass over here.
Your electoral college,
yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, well, we have the other countries, the smaller countries all have their own government, but their governments are only allowed certain powers that they're not fully governing. All the really big decisions are what are called reserved. They're reserved by Westminster. Westminster makes all the big decisions. So basically, the Scottish government are fucking great. They get overwhelming. I mean, they've got the Scottish government has or not Scottish government, but the Scottish ministers. There's like you can have a possible 59 MPs, Scottish MPs in Parliament in Westminster, and 48 of them are made up of the same party as the Scottish government. The Scottish government is very, very popular in Scotland, and it wins every election, and it does fucking great for Scotland, but it always has one arm tied behind its back because basically the English government rules over us,
Yeah.
So it's shit. So that's why we need independence, and that's why we get dragged out of Europe. We just, it's like we have really no control over our country. And also, the thing is, for generations, we've been told by this British government that, Scotland's too small, Scotland has not enough money, it could never stand on its own 2 feet, it's dependent on English money to survive, and blah, blah, blah. And we're now finding out that this is just such fucking bullshit, and they've been lying and lying and lying. And it's England is dependent on Scotland for so many things, like all the oil money goes to England, lots of our electricity, something like 60% of the electricity that Scotland produces goes to England because England doesn't produce enough of its own, so
Right.
There's just all that, it compounded, and it's all just the fucking arrogance of the right-wing government in England.
Right. And that's the one thing, I guess, for myself as an outsider, as an American looking in, there's so many parallels with, our conservative party, but it's like one of the biggest things that I see in it is just that, okay, a lot of the Tory argument, or a lot of the argument is just that, look at how much these areas are costing us. And they do the same thing over here with minorities. They do the same thing over here with the poor.
Absolutely.
And they don't account for the type of money that's being brought in by the human resource of having these people. What they can do, what they can produce, the workforce, all those things is just like, it's the cost. And they never look at the money-making benefit of having them on. And another thing I think is just like, there's something that stinks about it when Boris Johnson's telling the rest of the world, that, we don't need them or anything else like that. You wouldn't be fighting so hard against them. You wouldn't be you wouldn't be holding your own party and your own parade here in a couple of weeks, just to disprove the distractors if they really weren't that important to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they've been hanging on to us tooth and nail, fighting everything to do with independence, and everybody like banning newspapers that support independence. Like, there's only 2 Scottish newspapers that support independence because all of the other Scottish newspapers are owned by English companies.
Right.
And when the 2 Scottish newspapers came out that supported independence, they got banned in all of the English-owned chains of supermarkets and stuff like that. So there's a massive wave of power trying to force down any kind of independence agenda, and very little of it ends up on TV. It's only just starting to be noted on TV when there's a big march. When there's like in Edinburgh last year, there was like fucking 120,000, over 100,000 people marching through the streets of this like little medieval city demanding independence, and almost none of it got in the news.
Right.
So they're trying desperately to hang on to us. And you're right. If we were such a fucking burden on them, why aren't they just desperate to get rid of us? And I think there's no accident that they always say, as when the end of the year accounts are done, British accounts, they always say that Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are running a deficit, but England, their books are balanced. And I just think that's just far too suspicious.
Right.
They're always saying that the other countries are too poor to go on their own, and it's just such bullshit.
Right.
We're all starting to see through it now.
That's, kind of here, not to maybe a little bit of a parallel is, here we're complaining about immigrants. Oh, they're coming into, they're destroying our country. They're taking our jobs. They're doing they're such a drain on our society.
Exactly. Well, that's how the Tories got Brexit done, is because they blamed immigrants, and it's happening everywhere. And that's why there's the right wing has got so much of a hold over the US as well. And you can see it as like a whole policy that they have. And there's such a parallel between these times and the rise of the right wing in Nazi Germany.
I agree.
And people laugh at me for saying this, but look through the fucking histories. Look at what happened. It's the right wing people in power, people with greed, people who want to control everything and want to fucking screw the little people for whatever they've got. They demonize the other people.
Right.
The immigrants, the gypsies, whoever they want, they demonize the other people and to take the attention away from what they're doing. And that's the way they control the people on at ground level.
Yeah.
Right. I was just thinking about how I wonder who people like compared Hitler to back in the day. Like, you know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'll bet you there
Yeah,
was
no.
like some sort of laughing stock. Oh, Hitler's the next, you know, Caesar trying to say, or some other historical figure.
Aye.
And people are like, no,
Oh,
you're being
come on.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
How could you even
Yeah.
compare the two?
See,
You are
I
so
know,
wrong. You're
exactly.
an asshole for saying something like that. You know, so
No, I'm quite sure that there was somebody before that, and I don't know who that, or Attila the Hun,
Right.
or, you know,
Right.
I don't know.
that's probably a better example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Fuck knows. But, you know, it's got to just happen time and time and time again, because that's what those kind of personalities do.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're
You know,
due.
kind of-
Yep.
We're due for something like that, and it's happening.
And not knowing your history is a
Yeah,
big part
exactly.
of that. I mean, I just find it astonishing. Like watching people listen to Oliver North right now on Fox News telling people about how we should deal with Tehran and Iran. And it's like, this was the guy of the fucking, you know,
He ran a
the Iran
fucking
Contra missile scandal. He sold them arms. You know?
Oh, really?
And you're listening to this guy's opinion. It's like, you know, but a lot of the Trumpies I know, they don't know their history. They don't know about Iran Contra, or that, you know.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Well, I think that's the other thing that the right wing governments always do, is they strip out the education system. They deny the people on the lower echelons of society. They deny them an education system. So, because that keeps them stupid and pliable,
And they glorify
can do whatever they want. Yeah,
You don't need no schooling.
Yeah, I love the uneducated, the undereducated. Yeah. Donald Trump's quote. Yeah, exactly.
You know what? We love them too. We love them so much that we want them to get an education.
Yeah. No. Oh God. Did he actually say that?
Oh, yeah.
We love the undereducated. You're fucking
No,
kidding
when he
me.
was talking about the vote and the partition of the vote.
Oh my
Yeah, I'll send you the quote. It's
That's the thing. I think, when are people going to start seeing, or the people who vote for him, are how are they ever going to start seeing through him? When are they ever going to start seeing through him? Surely at some point there will be a turn.
I hope so, but I think for some of them, they've invested so much that they can't afford to back out without losing all credibility, really.
Yeah,
you know, so
I know. It's a face-saving exercise.
I think a lot of the time it is, and that's sad and scary. And I've been trying
to.
How can I help facilitate it? That's what I've been kind of thinking about lately. Like, how do I make it less embarrassing for them to say, "Yeah, I fucked up"?
Yeah.
Because I think it's an uphill battle if you can't get around.
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking the only way they're going to stop supporting him is if he does get us all in another war, and then the body bags start coming home. You know what I mean? If they start seeing people, their kinfolk turning up in black plastic bags.
Maybe.
But over here, though, I mean, it's just just the blind support for anything pro-military. Yeah, well, that's just a thing. I mean, martyrs for the cause. I mean, there's so many people who would say, well, you're not supporting our troops with talk like that. It's like, we left all our freedoms over there in Iran. We got to go get them. It doesn't make any sense to a lot of us. And I don't know how true the quote is, but there was something I saw online with I think it was Goering saying, nobody wants war. With the Nuremberg trials, just saying nobody wants war, but that's easy. You just convince everybody that anybody who's a pacifist is not a patriot. You convince them that those people are against you, and then and just turn them against each other. And it's
right, and they've taken that one step further. Right, we're a very Christian nation overall. I know we're separation of church and state, whatever, but now it's not only gone from that to it's evolved to you're not a good Christian if you don't believe in this far right cause,
right? Like Trump is,
Have you ever seen a better example of an antichrist? I'm not into that. I think
absolutely. He is. I mean, he's one of the worst human beings on the fucking planet, anytime, anywhere. You know, he doesn't give a monkey's fanny about
No.
anybody but himself.
Yep.
And he will use anything and anybody. Like that kid. Who was it? The kid. There's a mass shooting, and he used the baby of the baby's parents had both been shot, and he used the baby as a fucking photo opportunity.
Photo prop.
And, you know, I mean, for fuck's sake, can you not see how bad this guy is?
Oh, yeah, literal human shield. You know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Since chills. Yeah, that's the thing people don't get. I think I just keep reminding them he will sell you down the river. And
absolutely,
anybody just to protect his career. That's all he cares
about. Aye, it was, and I really think also if he stays in power. I mean, people keep going on about oh well, he's created so many jobs, and I think these jobs are built on thin air. And if he stays in power long enough, he will bring America to its knees. I think, because his only aim is to fill his own pocket.
Right. Yeah.
And he really doesn't give a fuck about the little man.
Oh, no. And some of the little sneaky little things that he'll do. And people just are so gullible that they don't look beyond the surface of things with him. Like, Trump donated his entire salary as the president, because he cares about this country. Bullshit. He donated his entire salary to get your eye off the ball. The fact that he is taking vacations at his own resorts. You're having to pay millions and millions of dollars right back to him for him to go on vacation.
Yeah.
He's making more money going on vacation at his own place than he gets as just his salary for president.
Aye, and also, you knew that when he came over here for his fucking state visit to the UK, and he came up to Scotland, and instead of he was supposed to stay in Edinburgh, or was it a summit? No, it was a G8 summit or something like that. And he was supposed to stay in Edinburgh, but he made all his entourage and everybody else stay at his resort in Scotland.
He's also, I read an article, and I wish I could remember the details of
Silly.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was having flights coming from like the Middle East, like military flights coming from the Middle East, stop. And there was like a base that they usually would stop at to refuel, and it was way cheaper to do it that way.
Right.
But he was having them stop at like this other airfield that was way out of the way, where they had to pay way more for gas, and making them stay at his place.
Yeah.
He had a resort nearby. So that airport was struggling. Like there was a chance of it shutting down. And if that airport shuts, that's what it was. If the airport shuts down, that's going to affect his property.
Oh, right. I see.
So he starts sending military flights to
flights
refuel at that airport instead of going to like one that would be much cheaper.
Conservatism, saving money.
What a cunt.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a theory. I say I read. I actually listened to the audio book, but I don't know. Close to the same thing. Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff.
Yeah.
I don't think he intended to win. I really don't. I think he.
No, I don't think so
he wanted to
either. I think it was a massive shock.
And just be, that's the swamp in D.C. What can you do? Hillary's fault. Oh, well, at least I built my brand and sold a bunch of red hats. Buy my state.
And I can keep making a living complaining about everything, but not actually doing anything, which isn't so different from what he's doing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Or he's doing stupid shit.
Incompetent shit. Yep.
Yep.
Ignorant.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's scary. It's just kind of scary.
I know. So what do you guys think? Do you think he's going to get in? Because everybody, all my mates that I speak to, think he's going to get in.
I think it's a possibility. I really do. Just when you look at how people have been bamboozled in this country, I mean, it's a good possibility. I'm not. We were surprised the first time he got in. And it was just like, no fucking way. You've got to be kidding me. But I guess now we're not surprised by anything. Yeah, we're really hoping that the impeachment takes hold of something. And it's not just about hating him or hating his ideals or anything like that. It's completely being unstable. We don't. It's too much living on our toes. We don't know what the hell's going to happen next. Every day we open our news, we're like, oh shit, here we go. You know, what did he do today?
See, my ex, my son's dad is a psychiatrist, and there's been so many times that he's watched Trump, the stuff that he says, and he's said to me, look, if he came into his office, he would be certified. You know, he would be stuck in a fucking hospital. The kind of shit that he comes out
that's what
with.
I said. That's what I don't get too. Is I see a lot of conservatives who look at him and they say, "Well, he believes in these values, so I support him." It's like, no, he doesn't. He
doesn't.
He
No,
believes
no,
in whatever is in front of him and whatever he's thinking at the moment.
It's like
he's never.
Like I've said before, it's like a chimpanzee wearing a T-shirt of your favorite band. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
He's not a fan. That's a chimp. You know, and you can't see that.
That's a really good analogy. I'll have to remember that.
It's like you know, it's throwing its shit around. It's eating bananas. It's not really, you know, just because it's wearing an Iron Maiden shirt doesn't mean it has anything in common with you. You know, in your love of Run for the Hills. It doesn't. It's just supporting that, and you have to look at the quality of what it is and what it's doing. You know,
I know.
It's creepy.
Yeah, I think ultimately, it's really sad to say this, but ultimately, everywhere in politics, it doesn't matter what the fuckers do. In the end, what it comes down to is the economy. Like they always say, it's the economy, stupid. And I think probably the only way he will really get his arse kicked is if the economy starts going down the pan. Yeah. And it's the same here. If the economy goes down the pan, and there's loads of people using food banks and really poor here now, and the right wing are still in power in the British government. You know, so it would take like massive unemployment and the economy to nosedive for them to get kicked out.
But the sad thing is, at least here, like even with that, the brainwashing is so complete on some level that all they have to do is say, well, that's the Democrats' fault. And there's no curiosity. There's like, that's what they say. It's the Democrats. Oh my God. Well, goddamn these Democrats, they brought us down. They're bringing our country to their knees. And it's not. Right? Democrats are saying, hey, you know what? Let's raise your minimum wage. Right?
Yeah.
And they're being convinced, no, the minimum wage, raising that would be terrible. Let's give the billionaires a break, let it trickle down. And I don't know how many times this argument has been coming back. Like, oh, the billionaires are going to take care of us if we just give them a big tax break. And the billionaires are like, cool, I get to buy a bigger yacht.
Yeah, exactly. I get to go and screw some other people.
It never comes back around.
It's fucking nuts. That's the first thing that Boris Johnson did when he became Prime Minister, was just give massive tax breaks to the rich. And you think, why can't people see through that? And then we had another election, and he got an even bigger majority. And it's like poor people who are scrabbling around for money, and they know that massive amounts of families who are working, have both parents working, have to go to a food bank on the way home because they don't earn enough to feed their kids. And this guy's giving massive tax breaks to the fucking rich, and still they vote for him. And you think, well, you fucking arsehole.
Yeah, well, that's another thing, though, that made me think, when you ask, do I think he could get in again? And now I look at Boris Johnson, and I'm just like, I didn't think he was going to make it again. Didn't think by any means. Yeah, it's just like, so I guess it's all up in the air. I don't know, but I can't really understand where this big trend is coming from, both here and there. And then it's, that it's all over the Western world that we're leading this way. It's
a powerful misinformation campaign, I think.
Yes, absolutely. The fake news stuff. And I was seeing something online, and watching this, I can't remember who it was that was talking about it, and it's just saying like the oligarchs and the super powerful and the super rich have figured out a way to just mass manipulate the people on the lower echelons, and they create this back to the kind of creating the bubble of fear and blaming immigrants and blah blah blah, that just and the fake news thing, the whole fake news thing, manipulating through social media. You know, actually, one light at the end of the tunnel, I was seeing something about in Finland, where in the schools in Finland, they actually have classes teaching the kids how to spot fake news and making them really internet savvy and fake news savvy. But the thing is, like the right wing would never allow classes like that in school because they're going to end up out of power.
Yeah, that's a great idea, though. I mean, boy, there's a lot of adults over here that could use it. That's an unfortunate thing too. Is you could never allow something like that. I don't think in America either. At least on like the compulsory school element. You know, I mean, maybe in university, maybe when kids are older.
Well, and I'm seeing like this wave of fighting the resources to uncover fake news. Right? I saw. I'll share a little bit of a conversation I had with a relative. I was just pulling this up here, and he had posted like a fake George Soros quote because that's like a big popular thing to do. You know, I'm going to bring down the United States by funding black hate groups and bullshit like that. And he's reposting that, and I find, you know, I'm trying to politely say, you know, I know that's fake, right? And I'll look it up just to make sure. And you're sure enough, and I just kind of ask him deep down, is there a part of you that knows this is probably fake before you post it? And his response was, nope, I've watched George Soros for years and listened to his interviews. This fits right in. Didn't even take the time, right? And my response is, except it's a lie.
Yeah.
Right. And he's so invested in the lie. Right. That he can't see beyond it. And what I was getting at a second ago too was we're also seeing like throwing out let's discredit Snopes, you know, and Snope is a really good resource at uncovering what's fact and what's fiction. They do a really good job of that. You know, they're not perfect, but they don't have an agenda other than we want to get to the bottom of this and tell you as much of a truthful thing about this as possible. And now, you know, so I'm seeing fake news talking about how Snopes is fake and it has this big agenda. Right. And it's going around with those circles, and they're using fake news to discredit fake news busters.
Yeah. Right. You know, the one thing that recently turned up here, and in fact, I think it was during the election time here, the last election time here, that there was supposedly this fake news busting account on Twitter. And it turned out that it was it was a website maybe, and it turned out that it was actually the Tory party. It was funded, and it was just spouting out Tory party propaganda, and touting itself as a fake news busting thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was doing the same thing. They've got it down to a fucking T. The thing is that the right wing have absolutely no sense of morality or moral compass, and it's all about getting their way, entitlement, and getting their way.
Right.
So they'll stop at nothing. Whereas, you know, the people, you know, middle center ground or lefties are all about kind of moral.
Yeah, I agree with that, and they claim to be the moral majority. That's the thing that blows my mind. And on top of that, it's just, you know, I think the propaganda thing is probably the biggest issue that we're facing right now. It's like people don't even talk about the issues that we have in America, you know, often anymore. It's just debating whether or not they, you know, dislike immigrants or whether or not, you know, it's all these hot button issues. Well, so many things are happening that are getting pushed to the wayside, environmental votes, you know, that were going untold. Things that are dealing with your economy and everything else that affect our day-to-day lives are just being washed aside while everybody can argue over things like political, you know, over like fake news. I mean,
it seems like as if the healthcare system in America is getting much worse.
Yep.
You know, like it's getting much more expensive, and people are just going to Canada all the time to get their drugs and stuff like that. And I remember somebody, who was it? Was it somebody? One of my friends posted something. He's a Welsh guy who lives in LA, and he'd looked up how much it cost to fly from the States to was it Amsterdam or Britain or somewhere? I think it was maybe Britain. And you can fly to Britain. You can put yourself up in a nice hotel and have a nice, really expensive meal and buy a shot of insulin and fly home for less than you have to pay.
For a shot of insulin. Jesus.
Yeah. So it's fucking mental, you know? I mean, is it going to get to the point where, like, everybody in America who doesn't have insurance just has to go to Canada, where they have to start having bringing in stuff from Canada?
Well, and then what we have to pay just to have insurance is crazy, right? You would think, oh, you've paid this big chunk of your check. You know, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
I think I'm on a lesser expensive plan, and I'm paying a little south of $600 a month to have my family insured. Right. And that's just because I'm pretty much taken care of with my job, but we still got to take care of my wife and kid. So I'm already paying out that much. And it would be more, you know, if you added the actual cost of me on the plan. And that doesn't cover that. If I go to the doctor, I'm still paying a copay a lot of the time. If I get a prescription that's not covered, I'll have to pay extra for it. I'm still paying for my prescriptions. I'm just paying less. You know, I have to have things pre-approved. If I need some service done, I have to go to the insurance and say, hey, is this going to be okay? And they can look at it and go, but you're going to have to pay half of the cost or something like that. We still have to go through, it's hoops and hoops and hoops all the time. Right. And you would think if I'm paying $3,000 a year to have my family insured, maybe we could actually not have to worry about all that bullshit that comes along with it. And it's more like $6,000 a year.
I mean, what? I just don't understand that. I don't understand how anybody could think that that's a better system than universal healthcare. You know, how is that ever a better system? I don't mean,
we get fed a lot of propaganda over here in the States on it, though, too. We're being told that, you know, people in the UK are having to wait forever to get into their doctor's appointments, or that they're, you know, they're literally dying in the waiting rooms. And, you know, it's all bullshit, of course. But
I know it's all a fucking lie.
Right.
We don't have, I mean, things have been getting a bit bad. I think it's much worse in England. Some people say that they can't get to see their doctor for a couple of weeks, which is kind of shit.
You can't hear with insurance.
No,
really?
Absolutely not.
Fucking hell, no. We don't have that here in Scotland. Like, I phone up my doctor and I can see either my doctor in a couple of days, or I can go and see the nurse today, and I just go up there. It doesn't cost me a fucking penny. I go and get a prescription. It doesn't cost me a fucking penny.
Wow.
Nothing.
It's amazing.
You know, and it's all paid through my taxes, you know, and like my mum had a new hip done, not a penny, you know. I mean, she maybe had to wait a month or something to get it.
People file for bankruptcy here.
Psychiatric care, I think, too, is probably the worst. What I see anyway. A lot of people waiting just like a month to get in to see, you know, or 2 months. It's like if you're having issues with mental health, that's a crisis. You know, it's something that you definitely shouldn't put back. But, you know, here it's like, well, a crisis is something like a broken bone. But, you know, you can, you know, it's really bad. I see a lot of people waiting like 2 and 3 months sometimes to get into a psychiatrist's office around here. And then the rates are outrageous.
Well, see, I think I've heard of that kind of stuff happening, especially for like drug addiction and stuff like that. That happens in England, and I think it even does happen here a bit, but I don't think it's anywhere near as much as 6 months. You know, I think it's usually a lot quicker than that. But you know, our NHS has been strapped as well since the Tories came in, because they're just starving them of money, and they do it every single time.
That's a shame.
It's also fucking depressing. I keep thinking that we're in such, that's all, the whole kind of political thing is always a kind of swinging pendulum, as far as I've seen in my lifespan, and I've lived quite a long time now. And I'm kind of hoping that it's going to get so bad soon that the pendulum will swing back the other way. And maybe this is all a big lesson that we need to learn, that this is how these fuckers operate. and this is how they destroy our society, and we need to be aware of them, and we need to, because we were making progress before. It felt like we were actually getting somewhere with being progressive and being inclusive and, recognizing the rights of everybody and, that kind of thing. And now it's just swung completely the other way, where all these old fucking cunts are trying to drag everybody back to the 1970s, where everybody was ever so slightly bigoted.
Right. I think, it's going to be, I think it's the next generation in line, right? Gen X is starting to step up to the plate, and we'll see what happens with that. And the millennials don't seem like they're as far right as previous generations. I think that's where our hope is. But honestly, we got to let this generation maybe not die. Yeah, I guess that's.
Yeah. I think it will become better when the old bastards, the baby boomers, are all fucking gone. Because that's I sound terrible and really ageist and stuff. And there's lots of really good older people, but it's the older people who have dragged Britain out of Europe. And it's like my son is going to be 17 in April, and he is a European. He has grown up all of his life being a European. And his generation are just horrified. And also they are the ones who are going to face the real brunt of climate change. So I'm kind of hoping that him and the folks slightly older than them are going to be the ones to save the day. And
I hope so, lest we forget again. I mean, that's what's my hope too. So other than the world completely going to shit, which we talked about the last 40 minutes, anything fun going on music wise? Anything else coming up that you've got?
Well, hopefully there is word on the wire about another Pigface tour and going round a much longer one this time, and going round the other parts of the States that we didn't hit last time, namely like the West Coast and the kind of western half of the US, which would be, and also there's talk of it actually happening in kind of like May or June or something.
Oh, wow.
So it would be nice weather instead of trudging around in the snow with everybody getting the flu and stuff. So that would be fantastic. And on a personal note, I'm still trying to finish. Well, I've been working on a new album for about the past 5 years.
Oh, wow.
But I'm really lazy. and so I don't know.
What incarnation is the new material under, I guess?
It's Ruby. It's another Ruby album, and I think I suppose I've just been plodding away. I have a sometimes studio in my kitchen.
Nice.
Which I set up and break down depending on whether I'm on tour or if it's Christmas or So I've been adding stuff to that for years without actually ever bloody finishing it. So I'm shit at finishing stuff. It's nice to start new things, but it's the grown up part is finishing it, and I'm just not that grown up.
Right.
Still, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I love all your work. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I get quite excited about it, but sometimes because there's some nice groovy stuff in it. But also, I'd quite like to do. I think it's about time Pigface released some new stuff as well. And Martin is such a kind of go-getter. He's an absolute machine when it comes to doing things, getting things done. I mean, he's completely the opposite of me. So he kind of forces me, when I do any kind of work with him, he forces me to actually get my finger at my arse and do it. So I've been pestering him that we need to do some new music.
Cool. Well, we won't chew up too much of your time. We're looking forward to that, especially get that record done.
All right.
Get that record done.
Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it?
All right.
Yeah.
we would love.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
I'll get after I get the roof fixed and my taxi's done and all the rest of the shit done, I'll get that.
Learn some more about salmon. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Lesley. We appreciate having you on.
Yes.
All right.
It's
good
all right.
to have you.
Anytime. Nice little natter.
Yeah, we'd love to talk. Yeah, when you get more going on, come back on. We would love to hear about that.
And we can
maybe talk a little bit more music history.
And great. Yes. Okay. I can't talk about music history. I'm a menopausal woman. I've no fucking idea what happened even yesterday.
Yeah.
It just all goes away.
We like to let anybody talk about what they want to talk about. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Very good.
You've been listening to Undetermined, the podcast, January 12th, 2020, with Lesley Rankine. Thanks a lot for listening.